All right, now I'm excited to welcome back maybe the most knowledgeable guest I have when it comes to college basketball to the odds breakers and my partner on Better Odds Sports Betting and Sports Wagering, you, Mr. Kyle Hunter from Hunter Sports Picks. You can follow him on Twitter at Kyle Hunter Picks. Kyle, March Madness is upon us, my man. We have a lot to talk about. How the heck is it going?
Oh man, we got tons of games to talk about, tons of tournaments, big tournaments, small tournaments, everything in between. We'll try to cover it and move quickly through all these.
Yeah, we will. I think some of these tournaments were backloaded to the next week, and some of them would have been the week
Yeah,
before. So we have quite a few. But
plenty.
there's definitely some teams that I don't have a grasp on, and I'll be passing on that. And if you have to pass on that, that's cool too. But I did some research today, and hopefully we can find some value, man, and give our listeners some justice here. But love conference tournaments, man. I've been excited the last 2 weeks, and I know you are too. So
Absolutely.
so
Coming into
let's
the couple best weeks of the year to be a college basketball fan.
Oh, it really is. March Madness is absolute madness. And you know what? We work harder during March. We're booked days, every day doing stuff. We're very busy, and that's what we love to do. Yet it can be also overwhelming. So I appreciate the time you're actually coming on. We have to
No
manage
problem.
lots of things happening. All right, well, let's get into it a little bit then, man. Why don't we start with let's just real quick touch on some teams that already made the tournament that could be wearing some glass slippers. I have one in mind, and it's probably the obvious one, Kyle. But
Yeah.
what do you have to say?
Well, I mean, it's going to be the same one as you, but can I just say real quick, Chattanooga's win over Furman
Oh,
tonight? What an insane way! I was actually kind of rooting for Furman. They've been so close many times. What a heartbreaking way to lose. I mean, they did everything right. They had hands up in the face, two guys on him. Just an amazing shot there for Chattanooga. But that's March Madness for you, right? There we go. Um, as
so
far
I
as the
had some
team,
lunch. I had some lunch money on Chattanooga, by the way, and I can't remember
did
if I.
you?
I think the odds came out after my show last week, and so I couldn't give it out. But it wasn't much, obviously. But like it was like cool for me to see. That was one of the teams I've been on a lot this year, and I've enjoyed and bet some unders on too. And Coach Paris over there, former Badger. There's a lot of Tanner Bronson's former Badger. There are really some former Badgers on that team, so I kind of latched onto them.
Yeah, I mean, the team that could make some noise here is Murray State, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the Racers look like a team that would be a team you don't want to play. And as far as the other teams that have played so far, probably Chattanooga is one of those that could be a little bit noisy. I don't think Chattanooga would be a great matchup with D'Souza down low. I would say they're probably the second best team or the second team that I think could make some noise. But Murray State, a class above all the rest so far.
Yeah, Murray State is. And what's funny is like I like to point out teams that are overrated on Ken Palm. I believe Loyola is overrated on Ken Palm. I believe Virginia Tech's overrated on Ken Palm. I even believe St. Mary's, even after that big Gonzaga win, is overrated on Ken Palm. I think they're a good team. I don't think they're a great team. But Murray State, believe it or not, I think belongs in the 20s and maybe with a little upside right there. I've seen them win. I was on them when they beat Belmont 76-43. Um, they didn't have to play Belmont because Morehead State took them out. So I would have bet on them again. But Morehead State scared me a little bit because of their slow play. So I wasn't sure if I was going to play them, but they beat Morehead State by 4 points, and this team is legit. And imagine being the 4 or 5 seed that's going to get stuck with these guys. That's going to be brutal.
Not good. That's not going to be a fun matchup for them. Murray State's got a lot of speed. They have enough front court to give you trouble. Janai Broom was a matchup nightmare there for Morehead State. That made that tricky final. I'm confident if Murray State had played Belmont again, they probably would have beaten them pretty badly again. They're just a really athletic, very good team.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Well, we had the same answer, not
Absolutely.
shockingly. I think the other ones are, probably far fetched, but you never know what can happen. We can always get another Baltimore Retrievers team. Got some questions, and maybe this should be asked during the tournaments. Are you going to have some total trends for us on some of these courts?
Yeah, let's cover these as we go through the individual tournaments because there are a few of
Okay.
these that stand out. There's quite a few that are newer ones. I kind of hate the newer ones because I want to have some sample size, right? I want to be able to know what it is from the past. But we'll cover several here as we go through that stand out.
All right, wonderful. Let's do that. Let's get right into it right away then. And this is a conference that has been very underappreciated and deservingly so because the ACC might only get 4 to 5 teams max in this NCAA tournament. I think teams like Virginia might be looking in, needing to win this. I think teams like Miami might need to win it all. I think Notre Dame's probably in, but I think Virginia Tech's even questionable. Wake Forest is probably in. Duke and North Carolina are in, man. Do you have any thoughts on the ACC?
I think that the ACC is pretty wide open as far as outside of Duke. I mean, Duke is the best team here, but Kiev, I want to start this off by saying I think both myself and Kiev were probably, I mean, equally upset that Duke lost that game to North Carolina the other day. I mean, just we feel terrible for that. I mean, obviously neither one of us big Duke fans.
Oh, no, not at
Did
all.
you have North Carolina in that one, Kiev?
Of course I did, buddy. And I had a little
There you
money
go.
line sprinkle at 6-1 on there.
Nice.
That was cool. I thought it'd be closer. I actually had a team total on Duke over 81, and I pushed, thank goodness, to one of those last second threes when they were playing the foul game. I was like, I didn't trust North Carolina completely, but how do you not take the dog when it's that big in a North Carolina Duke matchup? But no love lost for Krzyzewski.
Yeah.
The media loves him, but not buying some of that stuff. And you wonder if he's retiring at a time that it's legal to pay players. How ironic is that? No, I'm not insinuating.
Having said that, obviously Duke's a really good team. They're the best team in this conference. But it was interesting to see a North Carolina team that had played so poorly on the road come up with such a big win in their biggest game. And look, before that, it would have been a big argument as whether North Carolina was going to make the NCAA tournament. And now they got their win. They're going to get in, certainly, no matter what happens here. Kiev, I think it's interesting. Everybody's betting on North Carolina now. I've had multiple people tell me that many books are saying North Carolina is the most bet team in this conference tournament. I don't know that I think that North Carolina is just automatically going to make a great run in this ACC tournament just because of that one win. I would be a bit cautious about taking them. I don't know that the price is that amazing. In fact, Virginia, you talked about Virginia really needing to win here. I think Virginia has a chance to win a couple games. Virginia plus 1,800, I see at Barstool Sportsbook. Plus 1,800, not a terrible price to me. Virginia is capable. The way they play, they slow the game down, play good defense, take care of the basketball. I think Virginia is capable of making a run here. At the top of the bracket, Wake Forest, it sets up pretty well for. I don't really know that Wake Forest is that great of a team, but they're well coached. Forbes is a great coach, deserving of the ACC Coach of the Year, certainly. And as far as anybody else here, I can't take Duke. I can't take them at minus something here. Although I understand that they need to be the favorite and they deserve to have a good price. So Virginia would probably be my favorite team to take out of this. Maybe even a money line rollover with Virginia as well. So what are your thoughts here?
Well, first of all, I should detract a little bit. I still think Krzyzewski's a very good to great coach. I don't want to. I don't want people come off thinking that that's not true. The man has a legacy. He's a Hall of Fame coach. So, but and Duke is definitely should be the favorite in here, but they shouldn't be the favorite like this. Not in this conference. I know that they had their way in this conference. If you look at Duke, I'm very impressed by the Gonzaga win too. I mean, obviously that's part of the reason why Duke is such a high seed is this Gonzaga win by 3 points on a neutral court. But in saying that, you still have losses to ugly Florida State, right? You still have a Miami at home loss. You still have a Virginia loss. What I will say about Duke is probably because of their bad home play, 3 of their 5 losses were at home. They're ranked on Haslametrics as the 3rd best team, I believe, away from home. So I find that interesting. So that kind of throws a little needle into, the whole perspective. But at the same time, how is North Carolina 8-1? Well, now it's down to 6.5 to 1 on DraftKings. If you saw, how are they down that far? That's absolutely, even 6.5 to 1, I think, is a little bit insane here. I'll pull up DraftKings again. And then you have Wake Forest on that side of the bracket that's 10 to 1, right? I mean, Wake Forest, let's face it, they got to get by a Miami. This Pitt Boston College is a give me practically, right? And then they get by Miami, which I think they do. And then they have Duke. So Wake Forest at 10 to 1 is not bad. They're probably just as good as a money line rollover. And I'm going to be saying that a lot, but at the same time, you have to do money line rollovers every day. So I'm just going to talk about the odds. I think you can take a shot against Duke a couple ways. If you think that there's other chances that Duke's going to lose, you put a little bit on Wake Forest. You put a little bit on North Carolina and I did it at 10 to 1 and 8 to 1, maybe some pizza money on both. And then a little bit less on Virginia at 18 to 1, right? And that's the odds I gave out this morning. All or 2 or 3 of those odds moved in my favor because North Carolina is down to 6.5 to 1 and Virginia is down to 17 to 1 instead of 18 to 1. So I'm definitely on the right idea here. And Tony Bennett, man, look at how do you give him 18 to 1 odds to win? That is absolutely ridiculous. And I think the desperate team is probably Virginia. I think North Carolina is probably less desperate, but I do like where North Carolina ended up in this bracket because I'm not buying Notre Dame. I'm sorry, Irish fans. I'm not buying you. I think you're a good, solid team. You remind me of some of the Wisconsin teams in the past, but you're not as talented as the Dukes, the North Carolinas, the Wake Forest, maybe not even as the Virginia and Miami either. I'm not buying Virginia Tech either. I think they have massive problems shooting the rock. I think they only have one, that Kevy Alum, shooting the ball there that's any good. So that's how I'm going to play it, Kyle.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I do think Notre Dame as a 2 seed is just crazy. I mean, it does tell you a lot about the ACC. They've been down this season. We'll see if some of these teams can make a run in March, but Wake Forest 10 to 1 seems like a pretty good number to me. I'll be honest, I haven't bet many of these yet, but I will be betting on more of these as we go through the week.
No, sounds good. Normally you see a bracket like even if there's a favorite at -130, the next one's plus 300, like in North Carolina. Then maybe the next one's plus 500. This is ridiculous, these prices. So, and they probably figured that they were going to get so much Duke money. And so that's why I had to play it like this. I think it was a great idea. Let's move on to the next conference then. And I believe I have it as the Metro Atlantic, and this is going to be played. And I should have mentioned Barclays Center in New Jersey is where the ACC tournament is. The Metro Atlantic is going to be played at Jim Whalen Arena in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Now, all I have to say about this is Iona, Kyle, is a deserving favorite. They are plus 115 on DraftKings. St. Peter's is next at plus 380, Monmouth plus 500, Marist plus 1500, Siena plus 2000, Niagara 2000, Fairfield 2000, Ryder 50,000, or sorry, 5,000, Quinnipiac 5,000, Manhattan 5,000, and Canisius 5,000. So 5,000 means 50 to 1. So what I'm going to say is I'm passing on this thing. I couldn't believe Iona lost to Manhattan, and there's no way I'm going to take this team at plus 115 yet. I think they're probably the team that's going to win. Any thoughts on this?
Iona is the best team here. There's no doubt about that. But plus 115 is not good enough for me to take Iona. In fact, I was trying to find a way to go against them. I did kind of shop around here. I see Barstool has St. Peter's plus 450, which I think is a good price. In fact, if you look at Bart Torvik and Ken Palm's projections, they had the St. Peter's team winning 26% of the time and 22.5% of the time. The implied probability here of plus 450 is 18.18% of the time. So
Right.
I think this is a pretty good price if you can get plus 400 or better for St. Peter's. I think they're a tricky team. They play very good defense. They're not great at offense, but their bracket doesn't look too bad for them. And Kiev, I do want to say this is a good under venue. This is one of the better under venues. There haven't been that many games here, but the games in the MAAC conference tournament played here are 11-4 to the under, and none of the games to the over have gone over by more than 7 points. So this is a good under venue for this one. So keep an eye on this one. The numbers will get bet down in the MAAC conference tournament.
So I will say I own a beat Alabama, but that's it.
Sure.
I mean, they are not in. If Rick Pitino does not win this tournament,
Right.
He is not dancing. So keep that in mind. All right, let's move on to the next one that we're going to talk about, Conference USA. And actually, I did not write down where this venue was. I don't know why I missed
this
that.
one's at Frisco, Texas, where the Dallas Cowboys practice facility. So
all right, Frisco, Texas.
Crazy setup.
That is a crazy setup. Right in Frisco there. So Conference USA, I'm going to pull up the numbers for this and share my screen. It's top heavy, this conference, I believe. Let's look at it here. UAB plus 155, North Texas plus 200, and then Middle Tennessee's plus 700, Louisiana Tech plus 900, Western Kentucky plus 1100. It's pretty top heavy. And then you have a couple in the middle and then everybody else at the end, right? So what I wrote down about this conference is that I think that they have the wrong team favored, Kyle. I think North Texas is better. I do. UAB is, if you look at Haslametrics, which is what we do a lot, it's a very great site for people, and they rank away from home teams that I look at, and UAB is the 5th worst team away from home. That does not go good for tournament play because that counts neutral courts. I don't like that, and I think North Texas played them just fine during the regular season. At 200 to 1, I'm going to put some lunch money on it, Kyle. I know that it's probably equal to the money line rollover price. Maybe it's slightly worse, but it's not a big play for me. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm wearing the North Texas hat, and I'm taking North Texas in this conference tournament.
You certainly are.
There is no way I'm taking somebody other than them. I like North Texas a lot. I like their coach. McCaslin's done a great job with them. They're a good defense, and they play that really, really slow pace. They get the lead, and then they win with their defense. They shoot the three well. Kiev, their games have been ridiculously low scoring all year. I mean, I won several unders with them, and it got, these numbers were 123, 124, but they kept going under it. So I think they'll have a lot of low scoring games. North Texas plus 200, I think, is a good price. I think they should be the clear favorite here. I will probably bet this one. I think North Texas is a good play. This one also is an under venue, Kiev, because this is the Dallas Cowboys practice facility where you set up multiple courts inside our buddy Adam Burke and I talked about this before. This makes no sense to me. Why would you make a practice facility for football into multiple courts playing at the same time with like a curtain between it, like it's a YMCA? I don't understand why you do that. But the under is 28-15 in these games. So this is one of the we had two of the best ones right in a row here. I would look to play some unders in this one, especially those teams that settle for a lot of threes because weird backdrops, people screaming from the other court beside. You hear both games going on. I don't think this is a great setup for scoring.
It's a horrible setup for scoring. I agree, man. Backyard gym, like playing at one of those gyms with the 5 courts going on. Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely ridiculous. And UAB number 2 seed, they might get stuck with Middle Tennessee there, which is a pain too. Middle Tennessee's kind of been a covering machine over the last stretch here of the season. So keep that in mind. All right, let's move on to the next one here, the Big West, and that's played at the New Orleans Arena in Henderson, right outside of Vegas. And I'm gonna let you start this one, Kyle.
Yeah, so this one has no big trends for totals. It's almost exactly 50-50, just neutral in every way. I think UC Irvine's the favorite every way here. Isn't that correct, Kiev? I think
Let's
UC
let me pull up.
Irvine.
Let me
You
pull it
pull
up
up the
here.
odds, but they're the number 4 seed, but they've been favored the books that I've looked at. Long Beach is the number 1 seed. I don't want to take Long Beach because I don't know that they're the best team in this conference, but it sets up pretty well for Long Beach because they would play Cal State Northridge or Bakersfield in their first game, where UC Irvine has to play UC Santa Barbara, who's maybe the other best team in this league. You could argue UC Irvine and UC Santa Barbara are the 2 best teams in this league, and they play each other in the first game. So I don't want to bet either of those 2 teams because they could be out right away. So the only way I can bet this one is either bet Long Beach or bet somebody at the bottom of the bracket, like a UC Riverside or something, maybe on a money line rollover. This is a tough one. I like this conference. I like betting totals in the Big West, but I don't want UC Irvine or UC Santa Barbara going here for me.
Right, right. This is a conference I don't know a lot about. I haven't bet a lot of games in this conference. But the thing about Hawaii, um, I think they're halfway decent on the road, and they have a conference ranking number 1 in 3-point percentage and number 2 in defending it. And I know they used to be really bad on the road. You bet on Hawaii at home and fade them on the road, but they're so used to it by now. They just played in Vegas earlier. It was probably at T-Mobile, though. It wasn't here, but they were there once this year. And they also rank 4th in offensive efficiency and 2nd in defensive efficiency. So, wait a minute. No, sorry. Sorry. They're in the bottom of the bracket. I should mention with UC Irvine. I was going to mention where they were in the bracket. If you can see it here being shared, I like them at 6-1, Kyle. A little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of beer money on Hawaii here.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think this one's pretty wide open. I don't see any great values on this one. I missed this one being at the old Honda Center where they played at the hockey arena, and this was just straight unders all the way throughout the tourney. And now we don't have that anymore. So bummer, but we move on.
Yeah, totally. We'll move on for that. But Hawaii, I bet I made some money on them earlier here, and moving these screens, I'm getting all confused. Obviously,
Yeah.
if you're seeing this live, they're on. I'm trying to mention the part of the bracket where they're on, but they're in the part of the 2 seed here with Irvine. But it is a more up for grabs type tournament here, and I think there's a little bit of value just on the way they defend and shoot the 3. Let's move on to the next one then, and I have the WAC here next. Okay. And this is also played at the Orleans Arena in Henderson, Nevada. So I'll start with this one. I mean, with the WAC, I actually have to move up for this one. New Mexico State is the favorite, and they're the best team, I think. I watched them beat Grand Canyon. You did too, Kyle. We've talked about it. I believe they beat them pretty handily twice. But I'll tell you this, Stephen F. Austin is the hottest team right now. They're just they haven't lost since like January 26th. Like they went through all of February here without a loss. And I'm not going to lie, at 6-1, Stephen F. Austin is a little tempting. I didn't bet it yet, but I wanted to see what your thoughts on this this tournament bracket is, and I'm going to pull it up here for people to see the bracket.
Well, Kiev, I think New Mexico State's the best team in this league. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But they've laid several eggs. I mean, they lost to Chicago State. They've lost to teams that they should have never lost to. So they're far from a sure thing. They do get all the way that, what would you call it, a triple bye or something, where they get all the way into the 1 and 2 seeds have a big advantage here in the WAC. Having said that, the only way I could bet this one would be Stephen F. Austin as well at 6-1, because they're playing good basketball at the end of the season. And also at the bottom of the bracket down there, I mean, who's the terrible matchup for them down at the bottom of the bracket? I feel like they have a pretty good setup. I mean, they're staying away from New Mexico State, which is a big positive. And frankly, staying away from Grand Canyon's a good thing too. I think you could make a good argument that Grand Canyon is probably the second best team in this league when they're playing at their best. So Stephen F. Austin stays away from both of those teams. Sam Houston's a pretty good team too, where at the bottom of the bracket, you have Abilene Christian, who can be a tricky matchup, but I like Stephen F. Austin down there. I like their chances of getting past Seattle. If you have a 6-1 and they get to the final game, I mean, I know they'd be a pretty big underdog against New Mexico, but that'd be a good spot to be in. So that's the way I would bet this one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If Grand Canyon was on the bottom of this, I would be more worried about it. I think Grand Canyon is the second or third best team here, but Stephen F. Austin in the bottom, I think Seattle's fraudulent. I think that you're going to have a hedging opportunity with this one. So I'm going to put some more thought into it. It looks like I'm going to probably make this a small pizza money type play anyway. Let's move on to the next one. What's up, Sean? Thank you for checking in. Yeah, Duke barely got by Wake that one. So, I think Wake's a little live in this one. All right. So next one I have, I believe, is the Big Sky Conference here, Kyle. And this one's played in Boise, Idaho. Okay. I have nothing to say except Idaho and Idaho State are terrible. And there's absolutely no way in the Big Sky that I can get to the table with a team that's 25,000 plus 25,000 250 to 1 and plus 20,000 200 to 1 in this conference. I think they have no shot.
Yeah, the Big Sky is a conference I bet a lot. So Montana State's a good team, and I bet on them a couple times throughout the course of the season. They were good to me. Having said that, as a 1 seed, they're really not dominant team. I think the odds are probably a bit favoring Montana State too much when you look at this bracket.
Plus 200 and plus 300 for Southern Utah for you listeners.
Yeah, and there's some plus 150s on Montana State. I mean, that's just terrible numbers out there from Montana State. In fact, if you like Montana State, you have to do a money line rollover because it won't even be close what it would get. It'll be so much better than the future. I like Northern Colorado a bit at the bottom of this bracket, Kiev. They've been really good away from home, top 25 all year in away from home performance. This is a team that at Barstool Sportsbook, this one's plus 800. So 8-1, depending on what you can get. What are they here on DraftKings, Kiev, Northern Colorado?
Northern Colorado is 6-1.
Okay, not bad. Maybe a money line rollover would be better, but they would get probably Eastern Washington in their first game, likely Southern Utah after that. I think they're just as good as Southern Utah. That would be a 50-50 type game. And if they get to the final game, there's nobody that they'd be a massive underdog to. So, Weber is a team that's capable of winning this conference tournament as well, but they play Montana in the first game and then Montana State in the second if they win that. So I don't love their setup there in the bracket. So trying to stay away from Montana State and Weber, I would look down toward Northern Colorado.
Yeah, I actually have the 2021 here. I just noticed. So you're right. This was that bracket was not the correct one, but Montana State plus 200 and Weber plus 400. They're right next here. And I was going to say maybe Weber, but the way the bracket laid out is really bad for their situation. So not loving that. All right, let's move on to the next one. We have the Mountain West, and this is played at the Thomas and Mack Center in Vegas. And who plays at the Thomas and Mack Center, Kyle?
I think UNLV plays there, right?
I think UNLV plays there, buddy. But UNLV at 7-1, that is completely priced in this home court for them, man. And I think that is absolute garbage. I am not going to sucker for you. What's funny? I circled UNLV a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll be betting them, but nope. Now, I was thinking 15-1, 21. Are you kidding me? You're going to bet UNLV with a loaded conference like this? Boise State plus 280, San Diego State plus 330, Colorado State plus 360, Wyoming plus 600, all better teams than UNLV. And let's not forget Nevada is going to be scrapping too, and Utah State at
Utah
11 to
State's pretty
1.
good. Yeah.
What the heck are they 11 to 1 for? But at the same time, I'm just going to tell it like it is. I think that Boise State is the best team by far in this conference. And the reason I think that is, well, I've watched them for one. And that game against Colorado State, I pushed on that, and I'm hoping some other people got the 3 because the 3 disappeared after I gave about an hour after I gave it away. And it was a push over the weekend. But I'll tell you right now, Boise State would have won that game, I think, on a neutral court or definitely at home. Very impressive. They're very resilient. On Haslametrics, Boise State is the 7th best team away from home. So that is huge when it comes to this type of tournament. I think they're just on a mission this year, Kyle. They're in the tournament, but the fact that they showed up in a game they didn't have to against Colorado State tells me they want it all. They're number 2 in both conference offensive and defensive efficiency, and they're the number 1 rebounding team, number 1 in offensive rebound, number 1 in defensive rebound in conference. I got them at plus 330, and I gave it out like that, but now they are down to plus 280 in the favorite. They're the 3rd favorite when I took it out, but Colorado State went down. San Diego State stayed, I think, closely the same. And Boise State went from 3rd best to 1st best, but still plus 280 is interesting. I'd probably lean more towards running line rollover, but I'm playing Boise State probably for a half unit. What are your thoughts?
I think Boise State's a good play. I don't know if I'm going to bet this one. I think I'm more interested in watching this tournament than I am betting this one. It's just wide open. I mean, this is a really good conference. Mountain West, a lot of fun this year. I know some people are going to want to take Nevada and take that some kind of money line rollover or something because they kind of underachieved, but they have a bad setup here. I mean, and Sean's right too. UNLV gets Wyoming to start. Wyoming's a good team. I mean, gosh, they may well win that game. Wyoming hasn't been that good away from home, and they're literally playing a road game, which doesn't seem quite right, but they are. I don't know. I don't see great value in the teams that are in the underdog role. Like you said, you would have thought that you would want to take UNLV. Utah State's a pretty good team for a 7. I just don't think that price is good enough. Maybe a money line rollover. I could see them pulling a couple upsets here. It wouldn't shock me. I think Boise State's the best team in this league, and San Diego State's probably the 2nd best team in this league. So I don't think I'll bet this one, Kiev. I think I'll just want to watch it.
All right. Well, it'll be a good one to watch as well. So 100% on that. And I know you enjoyed the Mountain West just like I have this year. Let's move on to the next one here. And this is the Atlantic 10 Conference, Kyle. This is going to be played at Capital One Arena in Washington. So here's the thing for me, and I already kind of told you this when it came out. I made a bet, and I made it at St. Bonaventure. They're the 4 seed here, but I think Davidson's just a little bit weaker and possibly a fraudulent number 1 seed. They're only 5th in conference 3-point shooting and 9th in defending it. That's not good. I mean, a lot of these things are won behind the arc. VCU is at least the 2nd best and maybe the 1st best team in this conference, but they're screwed because they're on the other side with Dayton. In my opinion, VCU is better than Davidson. We could argue that if you want, but I think they got the shaft, and I think they're better. And so the fact about the Bonnies, they're the preseason favorite. They were top 25 coming into the season, and that faltered. But I got them at 6 to 1 right now. They are 4.5 to 1 on DraftKings. Still not bad. I would take that. And I think that the fact that their preseason numbers tell me that they have the talent. They're not the deepest team. They play on a 6-man rotation, but there is a 7th guy that comes in and fills in. I think that they were a little bit injured when they played VCU because of Asuni didn't play. The price is good, I think, with the week 1 seed. I'm going to take them. What are your thoughts?
Bet Online still has St. Bonaventure 6-1. So definitely plenty of prices out there. Definitely shop around. There's good prices to be had, multiple different places. I'm going to go a different way on this one. I actually don't mind that St. Bonnie play. And you could argue that it would be a good idea to bet both of these, but I kind of like Dayton here in this one. I think that Dayton has a good chance to make some noise. They're just outside the NCAA tournament, according to most bracketologists. I think this Dayton team, with their defense and the way they play, is capable of making a run here. Dayton plus 350, I've seen. I think that's a pretty fair price. And if you want to take Dayton and St. Bonaventure, you really could take both, and it could be a winning proposal here, because if you get 6-1 and 3.5-1, there's your two bets, and you're set up pretty well if both of them make a good run. So also plus 350 is 22% implied probability. Bart Torvik has it at 32% for them to win this. Ken Palm has it 26.7%. So both of their probability charts definitely like Dayton in this one. And I do like Dayton here. I agree with you that St. Bonnie, while if you just look at the course of the season, I don't think St. Bonnie has really been that good, but they were rounding into form at the end of the year. They're a veteran team that could make a run. So those are the two teams I would consider betting in this one, are Dayton and St. Bonnie.
All right, and I have no problem with that. Dayton did beat Kansas this year. The way I rank this conference is probably VCU, Dayton, St. Bonaventure, and Davidson, maybe. But the problem is VCU and Dayton are on one side, So I think the St. Bonnie side is good, and you're going to have a hedging opportunity at the final game if you get to that situation. All right, so let's move on to the next one. I believe we have the SWAC here. And my God, it's going to be played at the Bartow Arena, UAB, or UAB in Alabama there, Birmingham, right? UAB. I got nothing. So anything?
I was hoping you'd have something on this one, because I don't bet much SWAC, Kiev. So the only thing I can say about this one, I think it's a battle between Texas Southern and Southern. I don't really think anybody else has a very good chance here. I don't want to bet this one, so I'm not going to bet this one. And I think we could save some time on this one.
Let's save some time. Absolutely. Texas Southern plus 190, Southern University plus 250, Alcorn plus 450, and it gets worse from there. So keep that in mind. Let's move on past the SWAC, because the SWAC is whack, and we'll move on to the Pac-12 tournament. And man, this is really loaded with one team. That's Arizona. And I got to tell you, man, Tommy Lloyd has blown my mind this year, Kyle. I cannot believe how good this Arizona team is. The two teams that were like the biggest surprises were really Wisconsin and Arizona, in my opinion. How far that they went from projections, new coach for Arizona. And now you're sitting here with Arizona, and they're minus 120 to win the Pac-12 conference. And to be honest with you, Kyle, I keep getting close to betting them. I haven't yet. But my problem is, and what I wrote down here for the Pac-12 is that there's some narratives that you can buy into. And the question is, what are you going to buy into? Because I will say that they just lost to Colorado, Arizona did, and they're on the side of Colorado. What does that mean? Colorado might have a little confidence when they're playing them. So I don't like that. Arizona, the best team with Lane Juice. Is that the narrative you want? Or do you want USC, who's the best away from home team on the Pac-12? And they need this. And I'm not 100% sure USC's in, Kyle. I think they might be out. I don't know what the bracketologists have been saying. UCLA, who went the farthest last year and returned the most production, is the other narrative that you can look at here. And they're the 2 seed on the other side. They have to face USC again. Or do we talk about Oregon, who has the great end of the season coach with Dana Altman, but who's completely out of the NCAA tournament without this win? Arizona minus 120, UCLA plus 160. Terrible odds. USC plus 1,000. It just jumps from UCLA to USC, a massive jump, in Oregon at 15-1 plus 1,500. Any thoughts, Kyle?
Well, yeah, I think USC would be pretty safely in, but I don't think USC is nearly as good as the top 2 teams in this. I mean, I feel like Arizona we have like levels here in the Pac-12. Arizona's on their own level. UCLA is not too far behind, and then it's a big drop off to the rest of the conference. USC is a quality team, but they're not nearly as good as those top two teams. As far as making a good run in the NCAA tournament, I wouldn't trust them near as much as the top two teams. Kiev, I'd like to see a plus sign next to Arizona. If we could even get plus 110 or plus 105 or something like that, I think I would probably take Arizona here because really the bracket sets up pretty well for them too. You've got UCLA and USC duking it out at the bottom. Arizona, who's the team up at the top of the bracket that you would be worried about if you're Arizona? Colorado? No, Colorado's not good away from home. Oregon usually, but Oregon's played worst at the end of the season. I don't know what's going on with that team. Usually Dana Altman's team's very good. Yeah. We've seen stranger things than Oregon making a run in the Pac-12 tournament here. But, you said it right. Arizona's been tremendous all year. Their length, the pace that they play at, they're a really tough matchup. I think Arizona will probably win this tournament.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, let's go plus hunting for them, Kyle. I think that's the best way to look at this. I don't think there's a chance that they lose this. They're just too talented here. All right, let's move on to the next one then. And I have the Big East at Madison Square Garden in New York. Could there be some venue information, Kyle, on this location?
I'm a little bit disappointed in myself that I don't have the exact number in front of me. I will say
you don't need it. We've said it for years, I think.
Oh my gosh! I mean, I think first half unders Kiev at MSG in the postseason are definitely over 60%, and the full game unders are pretty close to 60%. I don't have the exact number for people, but I know it's really close to that because I've seen it so many times. It makes sense that the first half under is done a bit better. We've had a lot of close games in the Big East where you get the foul fest or even overtime at the end of the game. So pay attention to that first half number as well. But MSG is a tremendous under venue, probably second to the Enterprise Arena there at the MVC, where those games just go under a ridiculous amount of the time. MSG is probably the best under venue there is out there. So pay attention to that. As far as this one, I hate to be kind of chalky here, Kiev, but I think Villanova is going to win this conference tournament. So FanDuel plus 165 on Villanova. That would be what I would bet if I had to bet something here. Providence is a fun story. They've done a great job. Hats off to them. Ed Cooley's a really good coach, by the way. But Providence has won so many games just barely. And I know there is some skill to that, but their luck factor ratings are just ridiculously high. I have to bet against Providence if they're playing a team like Villanova. Who else in this conference do we think can make a run? I don't know. You have anybody that you think can make a run here in the Big East?
Well, this is a home game, all home games for St. John's, so I mean, they're a much different team at home. And yeah, I think this could be attacked the same way that I attacked the ACC a little bit with three teams. And of course, these are low bets. Maybe all three of them add up to one unit, right? I think Providence is a fraudulent seed. Now, they do win close games, and I think that's important. But like Wisconsin, they step up against the big teams and they show badly and don't cover spreads against the bad teams. And I think that side of the bracket has value because let's just look at the Big East. You have Xavier here. Now, Xavier is a team that was in the dance in January, right? I mean, Xavier was absolutely killing it, I believe. I'm going to bring up their schedule here and see what happened. It looks like they beat Virginia Tech and they beat Oklahoma State, and that's when we thought Oklahoma State was good, and they beat Ohio State. Two top 30 teams and one top 40 team, and then the Marquette win. You think they're on a great start, and then they just completely choke like they did last year when it came to Big East play. But a lot of times they keep it close. They beat UConn at home, right? They went to overtime with Providence. Okay. So I think that they're the desperate team. So I think you got a nice number on Xavier. I actually got him at 20-1. Unfortunately, like I always say, you don't get the early numbers. They move away from you. They're down to 14-1 now. So I'm more kind of meh now on them. But I think that it's definitely the most wide open bracket on the top. Now the back, if you want to attack Villanova, St. John's at 22-1 ain't bad, and you can take that. But the money line rollover with St. John's is going to do a lot more. You're going to probably lay minus 250 the first game, but then you roll all that over, and you're going to get plus 300 against Villanova the very next game. So if you think that home court's worth something to St. John's is also a desperate team playing at home. A money line rollover gets you 30 to 40-1 if you do that with St. John's. And so if you want to attack Nova on that side, you do a little bit with St. John's money line rollover and sprinkle a little bit at Seton Hall at 16-1, just a small amount, because Seton Hall is a much better team than we thought. I know they lost Aiken for the year early, but they really kind of came over that, and they're dangerous here. UConn is they're frustrating to me. They're deserving, but I don't know. I see Villanova could lose to any of these three teams: St. John's, Seton Hall, or UConn. So I think a little money line rollover with St. John's for a small amount of money, a small bet on Seton Hall, and about with Xavier. If you just get one of these guys in the top, all these big numbers, you're looking good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we disagree a little bit here just because I think Villanova is so much better than St. John's. I'm not sure it's going to matter that they're at home, but Villanova has been tripped up a couple times this year, and it's always nice to disagree a little bit too. So we agree a lot more than we disagree. I do like the Xavier look because Xavier's got to be desperate. I mean, that's a team that, to be fair, Kiev, the win over Ohio State really isn't that impressive when you see how Ohio State's been playing lately. This coming from a Buckeyes fan. You and I were sharing texts, and I had some thoughts about Ohio State here recently. But
I know.
I mean, they're not exactly ending the season very well. So,
no.
But Xavier has tons to play for here, and they're up in a section where I mean, they're capable of winning 3 games there at the top. If they win 3 games, you're sitting really pretty.
Yeah, exactly. And then those other little bets don't factor in nearly as much because it's not as much of a juice to make up for it. Right. Marquette is a little fraudulent here. They've been really bad down the stretch. Creighton lost one of their best players a week or two ago to injury. So just cross them off. Butler, yeah, that could be a little tricky the first game, and obviously Providence, but the values on the true values on Xavier, I think, in this tournament. All right, let's move on to the Big Ten, Kyle, our conference where wonderful Ohio State and Wisconsin play at. I know Ohio State very disappointed, but it's like I said, man, the Big Ten, they're a mess. You don't know what's going to happen. It's crazy. I mean, look at Nebraska, 3 double-digit dogs away in a row, and they win. A lot of fortunate things happen to them. Johnny Davis in foul trouble all of a sudden at the beginning of the first half, and then they was injured out of the game, and I believe they called that a flagrant foul. And man, and then you have obviously Purdue that's been a mess lately, and Michigan State. What the hell happened to them? Illinois is probably the best team, and I'm glad I took them at 50-1 on my show last week with William Hill to win the NCAA tournament. I think that was great value. And then I have Iowa second, and I apologize to Iowa. They hung in a lot better down the stretch than I thought they would, and they seem to have grown up a little bit. But Iowa still doesn't have a win above the top 24-25, right? They played a couple close, but they don't. Johnny Davis is supposed to play, from what I hear. But to be honest with you, I kind of wish he wasn't, Kyle. I mean, Wisconsin. No, seriously, Wisconsin won the Big Ten, though they shared it with Illinois. So I want to see this team get better without him, because they just lost to Nebraska without him, right? And they didn't even start out that game in the massive letdown spot after the Purdue Bank Fest. Obviously, winning the Big Ten, you're going to have that letdown. But I want to see the team get better without them, so they're better for the NCAA tournament personally. But yeah, Sure. I mean, if I know you're going to win the Big Ten tournament, play. But if Johnny Davis is any hurt, I would wish that he wasn't. But he's going to play. And I think Wisconsin's a little fraudulent too, because they could lose to a bad team and they step up against good teams, but they're not the greatest shooting team. They're bad shooting the basketball. I'm sorry, they go on droughts. And I have only Wisconsin as the fourth best team. I have it Illinois, Iowa, Purdue, and then Wisconsin. And they say it's hard, it's a fallacy about the third time's the charm. Well, Purdue, they should have beat Wisconsin that game, and Purdue has some better talent. Let's just face it. Look at the guys inside with Edey and Travion Williams. Look at Jaden Ivey. So I think Purdue's probably the livest team in this bracket because they're on a good side of it. If Wisconsin and Johnny Davis is not healthy, that's great for Purdue. You said enough about Ohio State. Look at what Maryland and Michigan State have been, man.
Yeah.
Just absolute garbage here. And then Minnesota and Penn State. I'd be happy as hell I'm getting Minnesota and Penn State. I think I'd rather have them than Nebraska and Northwestern, and they're probably not even going to factor in here, so Purdue's got a great shot, but let's look at the money on this thing.
Oh,
it's awful. I mean, Purdue's at plus 160, and
can't take that.
And that adjusted right away. You have Illinois at plus 370, which is probably a little bit closer. Iowa plus 370 is interesting, but Iowa is the 4 seed. They're a good 4 seed. Wisconsin's 8-1, so people already are not believing in them. Kind of like the same thing I said. Michigan's the one that intrigues me a little bit, Kyle. And I didn't bet it, but I might do a money line rollover with them because I'm a Big Ten fan. And 12-1, not good odds. But what I will say about Michigan is maybe this time without Hunter Dickinson, some of the that big win they just got against Ohio State, and I think maybe they've grown up a little bit, and that's what you were waiting for. And now Hunter Dickinson's going to be back in. Juwan Howard's going to be back in. Maybe this team that was favored in the preseason is actually going to show up. The problem with Michigan is that the bracket's so difficult. I mean, you have Illinois on that side, and you have Iowa. Dude, I think this thing's a complete bust, and I might not have a play on this thing. Any thoughts?
So I don't want to bet Michigan. I don't want to bet Michigan. I mean, why would I want to bet Michigan? I can talk negatively about Ohio State, but I don't want to talk too positive about Michigan. Having said that, Michigan is an intriguing case here because they were supposed to be so good before the season, and now they're seeded this way. But Las Vegas Chris chiming in, of course, the Michigan backer there. I will say Michigan is a good money line rollover candidate here, Kiev. I do think that is probably a good way to look at this. If it's set up any different, if Michigan was at the bottom of this bracket, I mean, I'd be saying we have to bet money on Michigan on this one. As it is, I can't bet Purdue plus 160. There's too many good teams in the Big Ten. I can't take anybody plus 160. I don't agree that Iowa is the second best team in the Big Ten. I think Iowa is still going to be fraudulent when they get in the NCAA tournament. I want to see them prove it to me many times, time after time. Their defense has let them down in the big dance. I think they'll probably do it again. Now, does that mean that they can't make a run here in the Big Ten tournament? Maybe not. Certainly a good team and a well-coached team, but I don't trust Iowa, so I wouldn't want to bet Iowa. As far as this one, I would probably bet Illinois if I had to bet something here. I don't know if I will. I will mention Illinois is plus 400 at BetUS. Quick plug, BetUS, you can use better odds as a bonus, and you can get a nice sign-up bonus there. Quality Sportsbook. I do the BetUS college basketball show. That's a lot of fun. Certainly, shop around. BetUS has some good odds on this one. And also Michigan is plus 1,400 there. Gosh, I don't know. Indiana's right on the bubble, but Indiana and Michigan in the first game. I don't think Indiana's probably going to beat Michigan in that first game. Kiev, the Big Ten is a lot of fun, but I don't know how there's a ton of value in this tournament.
There isn't. That's what sucks. And yeah, Chris, blue might be the only look because these just terrible odds up top, and the Big Ten, like I said, is just like a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get from game to game. It's been difficult. And great stat, Sean. 15 straight wins by Wisco of less than 2 possession games. That
Great
was,
stat.
and if you look on Ken Pom and Haslametrics, Wisconsin's a very top lucky team. They're in the top 6 or 7, I believe, in luck. I think Providence is number 1, like we mentioned many times, but Wisconsin's been very lucky. And I guess, they're making some of those final shots. And yeah, how long can this last is the question. So thanks for the depressing stat there. All right, let's move on, man. The Big Ten obviously not pumping out that value that we like. So what do we have next? I think it's the SEC. And this is the best conference in basketball, in my opinion. And we'll see if that holds true in the big dance. They play at the Amalie Arena in Tampa, Florida. They're playing. So SEC land right there. So here's the thing for me. I think Kentucky and Auburn are proper favorites, right? Kentucky's plus 190, Auburn plus 260, but they're not bettable favorites. To be honest with you, the way this bracket lines up, I think, and I have to make sure I pull up the right one. Yeah, I had the right one the first time. I think Auburn's the side you want to fade. Kentucky's been getting through a lot of games without Ty Washington, and who's their best player, and Severe Wheeler, right? And so the way I look at it is Kentucky, I think Kentucky is the best team. I think Auburn's second. So it's hard to argue against that, but Auburn has been very bad away from home. Okay. Kentucky is massively bad away from home. So I'm gonna cross them out, and Tennessee's on the side of Kentucky, so I don't really want anything to do with them. But Auburn's been bad lately, and I think I actually took a really big long shot. I took Texas A&M at 100-1. And the way I look at it is Texas A&M is that few teams that, there's 7 here that's in the dance. No, probably 6. No, maybe 7. South Carolina's not, but Texas A&M and Florida are borderline, right? Can we say that? Florida is the home-ish team playing in Tampa, like home-ish, right? But I think that A&M being at 100-1, they won 4 of their last 5 games. This could be that desperation team that sneaks by Auburn. And then another way that I decided to go is I'm going to take 2 teams on this side. I'm going to fade Auburn by taking Texas A&M at 100-1 and Arkansas at 7.5-1. And hopefully I can get lucky enough to be able to hedge one of those against Kentucky when it comes down to it. And hell, if you don't get Kentucky, even better, right? See, the money line rollover works great unless you're not playing the great teams, right? Then all of a sudden it's like maybe it's
right.
not. Yeah, there's no way. Like if there's a chance that Texas A&M is not going to play Kentucky at the end, then 100-1 is a hell of a lot better odds than you can get now. Unfortunately, if they're only 70-1 now, so that's moved down. What's Arkansas still at 7.5-1. Now Arkansas has been hot lately, and I liked how they finished the season. They had that bad slump in the middle, but they're getting respect on Ken Pom, top 19 team. That last game against Tennessee, that foul on Likes was absolute robbery. The officials blew the foul on him for just standing there. It was nothing he did. And it blew my mind because they were on the way on the comeback. But look at their wins before that. LSU, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Yeah, they were at home, but they at least beat Florida away. They beat the Missouri away. Hiccup against Bama, only 1 point loss, but they just went on an absolute tear if you see on my screen. So that's the way I'm going to approach it. What are you going to do, Kyle?
Yeah, so when I looked at this one, I thought there's only 2 ways that I could possibly bet this. The 2 ways are either take Kentucky, 2-1 is the best price I've seen, I don't really want to do that because I feel like this is a good enough conference that do we really want to take 2-1 on anybody? There's so many good teams in this league. Um, the way that I want to do it is either take a Florida money line rollover or take Texas A&M. So you kind of were looking at this the same way. I feel like we want to take one of those two teams and take their chances to pull an upset of Auburn. Auburn has been a bit inconsistent at the end of the season. So, I think this is a conference that is pretty wide open as far as many good teams in it. LSU hasn't been playing very good here lately. Alabama's underachieved all year. That may be a bit of a tricky matchup for Kentucky at the bottom, but Alabama hasn't played well enough lately that they would really scare you too much. I think that Tennessee is a team that I never trust in March. You know this, Kiev. Having said that, Tennessee's kind of in a good spot where they would play South Carolina or Mississippi State in the first game. It'd just be Kentucky after that. So, yeah, if I bet anything here, it'd be Texas A&M or Florida, and just making a small bet on either a future or money line rollover.
All right, oh, fair enough. And remember, on your money line rollovers, you want to wake up and get that bet in, because there's been countless times that we forget to do that. So Jaden had a question. I believe it's Santucci to pronounce it. Not sure. But he asked if a parlay has a player get sick in the first quarter of the game, what happens? Well, you better hope to hell the rest of the team steps up and what happens, because there's no way you're going to get anything back. It's not like a prop bet on a player that, is on the does not play status. The player has to play, or many of the props grade it like he has to get in for one play of the game. As far as a parlay, they do not care. They if your player is sick or if he gets injured, that's too bad. Obviously that's the luck kind of stuff that you can't really predict. But what I will say is that when it comes to injuries, sometimes the team steps up. Now, I had Hunter Dickinson as a 3-point downgrade, which is very high for any player and an injury. And that 3-point downgrade didn't work because the rest of Michigan stepped up and destroyed Ohio State the second half of that game. So a lot of times when an injury happens, the rest of the team rallies for the rest of that game. So keep that in mind. But yeah, you're stuck pretty much where you're at with a parlay. Let's move on then to the Big 12, Kyle, and this was called the best conference. I think they're probably second, I would say, at this point. I'm pretty frustrated with Big 10, but the Big 12 is probably second. This is going to be played at T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, Missouri. I'm going to let you start with this one, Kyle. We have the Big 12, Kansas at 2-1. You have Baylor at 2-1, Texas Tech plus 350, Texas plus 600, and then it goes way down from there. TCU 20-1, Oklahoma 30-1. Any thoughts?
Well, I don't think any of these teams at the top are really amazing teams that would be favorites to win the NCAA tournament in their side of the brackets, because Kansas has plenty of weaknesses this year. They've not looked as good to me as what I thought they should be. Texas Tech's a really good team, but their away from home rating is pretty bad. I think it might be last in Haslametrics, if I remember correctly. So Texas Tech would scare me a bit from that. Baylor, if they were healthier, I think Baylor would probably be my favorite one to play here, but also the odds. What is it? Are they +1 something? I don't remember what you said on that.
Baylor 2-1. Baylor was 2-1, just like Kansas.
Yeah, 2-1 is not good enough for me. I can't take Baylor at 2-1. I don't think. I think a money line rollover would do better than that. I hate to just kind of say this is probably a pass, but the Big 12 is a very deep conference. I think you probably want to find somebody as an underdog, take a money line rollover and see if you can get them a couple rounds in. I don't really know who that team would be. My guess is my money won't be spent on this conference at all.
Yep. And Jaden had a follow up here. So if I had Mitchell Robinson over 8 rebounds and he gets sick, does that void yes, that if you're doing a parlay on props like over 8 rebounds, if he doesn't play, that's great. I thought you meant the rest of the team. If a parlay, because you said if in a parlay a player gets sick, I thought you meant general parlay. So yes, that would void it, and so the parlay would still be going on. It would just not pay out as much, right? It'll take that leg completely out, like you never had that leg at all.
Well, if he starts the game though, if he plays some into the game, I don't do player props too much. So I guess the question is, did he start the game and play any, or did he play a little bit? Because if he plays some and then gets 2 or 3 rebounds and then is out the rest of the game, I think you could be in trouble.
If he's in for 1 minute, 1 second, if he's even in for 1 second, you're out. But if he's sick before the game and sits out, then you're good. So that's the way they look at it. Big 12, I got to tell you, I don't have a play in this because I see flaws in all these teams. Texas Tech away from home is the worst in the nation, the number 1 worst away from home on Haslametrics. And wow, did they end the season poorly. I think they lost to TCU and someone else that wasn't that good. Kansas, they play no D. Yeah, you can tell they play no D when they played Texas. Kansas has plenty of mishaps, and that loss to Dayton this year kind of showed that too. Texas is bad away from home, not as bad as Texas Tech, but they don't shoot the 3 that well. And this is going to be a different venue for them as well at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. And then Baylor lost some key guys, Jonathan Chamu-Chachua, right? And there's another guy they lost earlier too. Baylor is not the same team they were last year. They're very good, and I wouldn't be surprised if they got to the Final Four at all. But they're not quite as good as last year. So, I think that Baylor. If I'm going to lean anything, it'd probably be Texas Tech or Baylor. But I'm not going to have a play either, Kyle.
Yeah, I think my lean in this one would be Baylor, but I'd like a better number.
All right. So if we missed any venues, you can obviously say them at the end here too.
Yeah, this one was at T-Mobile, correct? So T-Mobile has actually had a few more overs than unders. So nothing that stands out here. And I think we've caught all the ones that were big ones so far.
Yeah, there's 2 T-Mobiles, one in Vegas, and the T-Mobile Centers in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So, okay, we missed the MEAC, and so that's what I skipped over. I've got nothing. I'm passing on that one. Are you? Any thoughts on the MEACs? No, I mean Norfolk State is a massive favorite here, right? Minus 250. Any thoughts on the MEAC, real quick, or no?
Yeah, I'd have to pay attention. The MEAC, I believe, is played at Norfolk Scope Arena. That's where it's been in the past.
It's at home for them, basically. It's in
it's like not their arena that they play in every single game, but it's like just next door. Yeah. The Norfolk Scope Arena is the other one that has been good to the under. This one's been about 60% unders in this one. So I would pay attention to that. It's a bigger arena than what a lot of these teams are used to playing in. That's the only thing I have in the MEAC. I think Norfolk State deserves to be the favorite. I have bet this one like once or twice all year, so I'll pass.
All right, sounds good. And I'm also passing on the Southland tournament. I think that's in Houston, Texas. I missed the bracket on that one somehow. I don't
Nichols is the best team here, but I've seen plus 110, plus 100. I mean, their price is the best team, so I wouldn't bet anything there either.
Right. The reason I missed it is because they pulled it off DraftKings. That's why. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the MAC. Return of the MAC, played at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in Cleveland. So they're playing in Cleveland, right in MAC country there. Let's look at the odds here in the Mid-American Conference. Toledo plus 105, big favorite. Ohio plus 400. Kent State plus 450. And Buffalo plus 600. Well, I'm going to tell you this. Kent State is the hottest team in this conference. And I am surprised that the odds are this good on Kent State. And looking at what they did, I'm just going to pull them up here. They had a bad start to the year, but they haven't lost a game since January 21st. All right. And some of their wins include Toledo away from home by 13 points and Ohio by 20 points. They lost to Ohio earlier in the season, but I mean, just down the stretch, they really seem to wake up, right? So I'm like, why are they this massive favorites? Well, let's look at Toledo here. Yeah, I mean, they lost to Kent State, but they also have a really bad loss to Ball State. I think Toledo probably is a little bit better of a team, but it's not by much. Okay. So if I'm looking at these odds here, you have them at Toledo at plus 100 and Kent State at plus 450. I think that's way off. I think Kent State is the play here. Ohio's the wild card kind of team here, but I don't like what Ohio's been doing away from home either. I'm going to put some beer money on Kent State. They beat Toledo twice actually here. So I like Kent State. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Couple thoughts about this one. First, this is Quicken Loans Arena, 33-25 to the under. It makes sense that this would be an under arena, Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, I guess they call it now. But
yeah,
it's in Cleveland. So this is where it's a huge arena, much bigger than these teams are used to playing in. And I think Toledo's the best team in this conference, but I don't think it's by as much as what the odds say. Pretty much what you said, Kiev. And FanDuel has plus 600 for Kent State. I think 6-1 is a really good price on Kent State. And in fact, I think that's better than any money line rollover you could get would be. I like Kent State at plus 600, definitely. I think Toledo's the best team here, but it's also important to point out that both Kent State and Akron have a home court advantage here because this is very close to both of those places. They always pack out these arenas for the MAC tournament, where a team like Toledo is not near as close. They won't have as many fans there. It's something that can kind of sneak up on people is that, Akron has had a lot of success in this before. So is Kent State. I think Kent State's a good play in this one. In fact, this is one of my favorite ones we've said as far as value.
All right. I know you mentioned, hey, we're going to get in the MAC. And I'm like, yeah. I'm thinking maybe we're on the same team here. And look at that. It's like we fell on the same team. That's always a good sign here, Kyle. So I'm really happy about that. All right. Well, so we have another question. Rick Smith, no AAC, American Athletic. You're wrong. We do have the AAC, and that's coming up next here. What's funny is that I just did it in the order of I was going to look at DraftKings, right? Because DraftKings really has some great odds. And I think that this is definitely a messy conference. Memphis went down since earlier this morning when I prepared for this podcast. They were around plus 380, plus 360. But that big beatdown that they served Houston changed it. Kyle, what are your thoughts on the American Athletic Conference?
I don't know. I mean, Kiev, I feel like Houston is a good team, but the analytics really like Houston a lot. They're 26-5 this year. But you're kind of going through there and going, I mean, who have they beaten that's really good? I mean, if you look down through their whole schedule, I mean, they beat Virginia. Virginia's not been really good. They lost to Wisconsin, lost to Alabama in a really close game, obviously. They really haven't beaten anybody really good. I think Houston's good, and they're a well-coached team. But I don't know that they should be as big of a favorite as what they are here. I couldn't take Houston. Memphis, I don't know what we're going to get out of Memphis, Kiev. I have no idea. Memphis could lose the first game or they could win this thing. I have no idea. I don't think Penny Hardaway is a good in-game coach. He's a great recruiter. I don't know. I mean, I think this is one where you either trust Memphis, the price has gotten worse, like you said, or you try to take some kind of underdog. But I mean, who are you going to take in this one? I don't even know who really has a chance in this one. Outside of the top teams, this is not a very deep conference. And that's part of the reason why Houston has won so many games is because, I mean, there's not a good Cincinnati anymore. Cincinnati really not very good. UCF might be a bit of a sneaky team. I wouldn't be surprised to see them beat Memphis and maybe take UCF on a money line rollover. They could win 2 or 3 games here, possibility. Wichita State, possibility as well. The Shockers are not nearly as good as they were in the past, but Kiev, I'm not sure that Houston's as good as some people think they are, especially when you look at Ken Palm. I believe Houston is fifth. I mean, fifth. Wow, crazy.
No, they're overrated. They're overrated.
I mean, there's no way they're the fifth best team in the country. We know that. But
They were before
be...
Sasser. They were before Sasser and Mark got injured. That
I mean,
was that was awful when that happened to them. And Wisconsin, they were beating Houston in I believe in the Maui Invitational by like 20 points, and it was just Houston was sleeping. Well, Houston came back and almost won this game, and I was like, "Oh my God, Wisconsin has no answer." Wisconsin was playing their ass off, and they just couldn't do nothing. These guys were more athleticism. Stuttering here, and just better cohesivity. I mean, they're passing the ball great. They almost look like an NBA team. And then when they lost Sasser and Mark, I was like, oh my God, what massive loss. But they rebounded well after that and went on a nice run. But losing to SMU the way they did, losing to Memphis twice. Memphis is a very erratic team, Kyle. But man, Houston is not top 5. So sorry to butt in on you.
No, I mean, I just think that Houston is pretty massively overrated by some of the analytics sites. Well-coached team, a good team. Quentin Grimes was a key player for them last year too. And I mean, that's a big loss, certainly. So, I think that Houston's a good team. I don't know who I want to try to take the win this one. Like I said, I don't trust Memphis to put together a bunch of good games. Having said that, they've been playing pretty good at the end of the season. So I couldn't blame anybody who did bet Memphis in this one. I think if I were betting it, I'd probably try a small money line rollover on somebody like UCF or Wichita State.
Yeah, I can't do much with the odds here because Memphis is properly priced. Houston isn't. Houston should be plus 200, plus 250, in my opinion. SMU, I saw them beat Memphis, and Memphis didn't shoot a free throw until after 3/4 of the game while getting pounded inside. It was kind of like one of those, one of those super home court feels, but I don't think SMU is good enough. Tulane's interesting to me because they've been making a little bit of noise lately. They really gave SMU some trouble at SMU that last game. Wichita State has one good player, Tyson Etienne, and that's it. Wichita State is not the Wichita State we remember 5 years ago, Kyle. I don't have any value in this. Unfortunately, I'm not making any plays. I'm going to be, here's the thing. The very last game, if it's Houston versus Memphis, you're probably going to get Memphis at, 2-1 or plus, at least plus 150. Just wait and do that. Right. Yeah. If you like Memphis, just wait, make sure they get there, because the problem with Memphis, they're number 352 in turning the ball over. So that is how erratic they are. Now, they were injured for a lot of these losses here, but they are in the big dance. I actually took them at 140-1 in the big dance. I might have a money-making opportunity for them at some point, but 28th and Ken Palm get some respect here. So Memphis can be sneaky just based upon their recruiting, but Penny Hardaway is not that good of a coach. That you've mentioned that before too, Kyle, in my opinion. All right, let's move on. I think we have, I'm writing pass on the Ivy League. I'm a few months talking about the Ivy League, but there's
that's an epic pass for me.
There's only 4 teams in it right now: Princeton, Yale, Pennsylvania, and Cornell. And I'm going to be honest with you. I know Cornell and some of these are over teams. I haven't made one Ivy League bet this year, and I think I'm going to keep it that way, Kyle.
Yeah. Not me either. And this is a long-standing thing that I've had. I've had success in college basketball. One league has beaten the heck out of me, and that's been the Ivy League. I'm not betting the Ivy League at all. So if you want somebody's opinion on an Ivy League conference tournament, I'm the wrong guy to turn to.
All right, no problem. Did we miss any totals trends on Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, or possibly anything in Tampa, Florida, or are those pretty?
The Tampa one, there's not enough data on to know. As far as the Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, it's about 50-50. So I think we hit on all the ones that I had notes on that have been pretty big to the under. And I don't really consider any of these places over arenas. On neutral sites, it's either just flat neutral or it's an under arena.
Yeah, first half unders, if you remember, in the big dance were just money last year.
Yeah.
I did an experiment, I think, on Saturday where I did all first half unders for a unit and hit like 6 or 7 of them or something for a day. Or I think, I can't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday. It was interesting, but keep that in mind. First half unders, these teams have nerves. They're coming in, and some of the faster teams might not want to play as sloppy. The slower teams, the defense is always going to show up on neutral courts. So, always keep that in mind, Kyle. Man, we went long, Kyle. Thanks so much for coming on the show. I think, you're everywhere. You have a ton of stuff going on. I know you've dedicated a lot of time to me this year. So thank you so much for being such a great friend and partner here at the Odds Breakers. Where can our listeners get your great information and plays?
No, I appreciate that. You can head over to huntersportspicks.com, sign up for my free picks newsletter there if you haven't already. Plenty of people on that list. We sent out another free pick winner this past weekend. The free plays have done really well. The premium plays haven't done as well as the free picks here lately, which can be a bit frustrating sometimes. But March has usually been a good month for me. I put a special up for the rest of the NBA season, the rest of the college basketball season. That's discounted by $100 here for the rest of this week. So check that out. My NBA season started out 22-11, very low volume in it. And college basketball is up. It's not up as much as I was, but I've had a solid season. So hopefully we can have a good March, and check out everything there at huntersportspicks.com.
Wonderful. Or you can get Kyle's totals plays at theoddsbreakers.com as well for the whole month of March throughout March Madness. So please check that out as well if you're interested in the totals. Kyle, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate all your insights.
No problem. Glad to be here.
All right, my friends, thank you so much for listening to this show. We covered a lot. Hopefully we were able to give you some value. Hopefully one of these big ones hit for you. If you guys have any questions for us, feel free to tweet us at the Odds Breakers. Tweet Kyle at Kyle100picks. Have a great rest of your week and go get some winners.